Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday evening to you all. Hope you guys are having a great night out there so far and have had yourselves a great day and a great work week as we're making our way about halfway through it now, a little bit closer to that weekend. It's been a pretty active first half of our work week with this system that seems like we've been talking about for the last 10 days or so, but it hasn't been quite that long. But, we're starting to wrap it up now. We're in the kind of the last stages of it, but it's just getting cranked up for certain areas of the country, like Maine, for example, where snow is just beginning to enter the state. We'll kind of give you one last hurrah, if you will, one last update on this storm. It's not going to take up much time of this video, and then we're going to focus in on about 80% of this video being what's next. A lot of people are seeing some crazy model runs out there. Some people are interested in the weather enough to where they actually have access to the models, and they ask me almost daily, hey, are you, they'll tag me on social media. Did you see this crazy run? It was like 7-8 days out of this ice storm over South Carolina or the Southeast. There's major winter storm. What do you think on this? And I can tell you what I always think, and it's just Fantasyland model guidance. So we're starting to see more and more Fantasyland model guidance or model runs, if you will. If you're wondering what is Fantasyland runs, well, that's these crazy winter storms that show up on these model runs like past 7 days out or sometimes even 10 days out. And I would say 90% of the time they never end up materialized. Sometimes they end up becoming a signal that we can actually begin to forecast, and then it actually becomes a storm. But 9 times out of 10, it does not end up being anything. But there is some things to talk about. There's going to be a wild boundary that sets up in portions of the country that could eventually drift east. And who knows what could happen in February. So we're going to break that down for you, figure it out for you guys. I know there was a lot of disappointed people. I would say more people than not did not see as much snow as they were forecasted to see. At the end of the day, guys, weather is going to do what it's going to do. I didn't really have any snarky comments, thankfully, in my comments, but I'm sure that there was a lot of meteorologists in the Ohio Valley and areas of the Midwest that got some nasty comments from the public. Weather's going to do what it's going to do, guys, and this was a highly dynamic storm, meaning there was going to be some bust either way. Certain areas like Chicago got a little bit more snow than they were expected. I'm hearing at least there was sections of Missouri that got more snow than they were supposed to get, and then there was a lot of sections of Missouri that did not. Indianapolis was a big place that was supposed to get a lot, but I don't think they ended up getting a ton really at all. But let me know your final reports. I would love to hear them, and even if you want to vent to me, I'm here for you guys. So we're going to figure out what's going to happen after this storm. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Appreciate all the support over the last several days and the last couple weeks. And if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. So let's get rolling. Well, briefly, if you want to skip this, I don't blame you because this is over for most people, but not over for everybody. Winter storm warnings and advisories are still ongoing up here in the Northeast. You still got winter storm warnings for, I would say, 90% of Maine, but the coastal regions of Maine are just at advisories where there's going to be mixing issues. And, we'll talk about what is going on right now in Maine. Come on, pull up for me. There we go. This is the radar out of Portland, Maine. And, you actually got a little bit of some ocean effect snow going on south of Portland. But anyways, the system is just now moving in. I've had a lot of comments from Maine. It's really awesome just knowing you guys tune in for my with my channel, especially from somebody talking about you guys' weather from the south. It's just awesome to know that you guys from, this area of the Northeast really tune into my channel. It means the world, guys. But anyways, this storm is just moving into Maine. There's going to be a lot of snow for you guys, but we'll kind of go over some model guidance. Well, really just the National Weather Service and kind of give you one last shot at this forecast up here for Maine. But this is the HRRR model. Snowing in portions of southern New England tonight. This will continue. It'll change into a wind-driven, maybe not always windy, but it'll just turn into a nasty soaker of a rain event overnight for all of the Northeast. Not all the Northeast, but areas of the southern Northeast like Long Island, New York City, New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, southern New England. It'll just go from maybe wet snow to all rain. And then we'll stop it. This is around 10 p.m. tonight. Heavy snow beginning to enter of all of southern Maine. Still snowing very heavily in New Hampshire and Vermont. Take it from your folks out to the west. Some of these snow videos were just unreal. But the thing is it snowed in a lot of areas in like 33, 34 degrees. So as soon as the precipitation let up, the snow let up, and in some cases, it just turned back to rain. And as soon as the snow stopped, the melting occurred. And there was a lot of areas like in southern areas of Indiana and Illinois that picked up a few inches right off the dot. But as soon as it stopped, a lot of people said they went to sleep I saw a couple comments where they went to sleep in those areas and there was nothing on the ground. They woke up in the middle of the night. It was snowing like crazy, 2 inches of snow on the ground. Then by the time they woke up in the morning, it was all gone. Like nothing ever happened overnight. And that was just kind of one of those weird events. It snowed at such marginal temperatures. A little bit different up here. It's a little bit more cold air. But listen, it's going to be one heck of a snowstorm up here for Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. But even in the southern sections of Vermont, New Hampshire, it's going to turn into a mixed bag of precipitation. It even changed to just flat out rain for southern New Hampshire. You just can't get a pure snowstorm up here to save your life up here in the Northeast. It's just wild that, just totally different. Around this time last year, we were preparing for a blizzard for areas of southern New England. Totally different story this time around. But this snow is going to be very heavy, especially if you're off the coastline of Maine. Snow is going to be coming down at 1 to 2, maybe 3 inch per hour rates. And then by the time we're waking up tomorrow, the rain snow line will make it halfway up the state of Maine, guys. I mean, it's probably going to switch to rain as far north as Caribou, Maine tomorrow morning, briefly. So just a weird system, guys. And then it moves on off. Last shot at snowfall predictions, still widespread, over a foot of snow. But listen, this isn't the snow you guys are used to up here. You're accustomed to it, but it's not normal for this time of the year. This is going to be a wet, heavy snow that could potentially bring down some small tree limbs, already weaker trees. So please be aware, and don't be shocked if you lose some power. It's just going to be heavy, clumpy, kind of clumpy like snow. It really is. Snowflakes the size of $50, if not bigger. So we'll briefly talk about this, guys. Oh man, I was about to lose power, but I didn't. Maybe I was just seeing stuff. But anyways, the Ohio Valley here, one interesting thing is that's already occurring this evening is you'll see some rain showers might switch to some snow showers as far south as Tennessee overnight. And then really some snow showers will really pick up from the southern Appalachian Mountains, eastern Kentucky, West Virginia into the middle of the night, higher elevations of Virginia, and certainly the higher elevations of Tennessee and North Carolina. So maybe sections of Pittsburgh overnight might see some light snow where, you guys picked up, I don't know, maybe an inch or two, if that, and then it turned all to rain. But Lake Michigan, you're going to have a streamer kind of moving from north to south. So somebody down here on the southern shores of Lake Michigan into kind of areas of northern or northwest Indiana, maybe the far southwestern county of the state of Michigan could certainly see some snow. And this could be at a pretty intense band of snow as we're getting into about 5, 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow morning. You got snow showers. I wouldn't be surprised if you see some snow showers waking up in Nashville, Tennessee tomorrow. Wouldn't be surprised one bit, guys. Even as far south as Huntsville, Alabama, some snow showers can make its way in. I don't think this is going to do much. At most, it might put a coating on some car surfaces or just some metal surfaces or something like that. But this could drop down a few inches of snow, maybe several inches of snow. This little lake effect streamer. And then we keep this rolling, guys. We get all the way to tomorrow. And, for areas of southeastern Ohio, and then western West Virginia, where you guys have just not been getting into the winter weather fun lately, it seems like this has kind of been the whiff zone, if you will. You could get a period tomorrow of some light to moderate snow. I mean, so let's pull for these guys because these guys have not had a lot of luck. I got a guy here who lives in West Virginia outside the higher terrain, and he's had a rough go this winter. Not a lot of snow for this fella. And he's been watching for about 2 years, so I appreciate you, man. You comment on every single video. I hope you see some snow tomorrow afternoon. I really do. But, snow showers for Kentucky tomorrow, for areas of Tennessee. And then you could get some heavier little squalls of snow in Ohio. So definitely a wintry day again, the Ohio Valley tomorrow. Just a different scene with enough cold air. Just definitely kind of snow showers flying around. Then here comes our next system. This will drop a couple inches of snow. This will move into Chicago probably Friday morning, into areas of Iowa. This will move across Iowa, Minneapolis in the middle of the night tomorrow night. This will move into Wisconsin, then to northern areas and central areas of Illinois, Milwaukee. You guys could get a little burst of snow from this Friday morning, Chicago too. And this will even eventually work its way into Illinois, Michigan, and it might try to amplify itself. So even another wintry day for areas of the Ohio Valley again Friday. So you're kind of locked into this little wintry pattern up here. You really are. So this is a little pretty strong, little potent piece of northern energy that's not linking up with any kind of thing in the southern jet. So it's not really going to turn into any kind of major system. But there's already another system behind this too. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. This will drop a swath of a few inches of snow in its path, but it only goes out 48 hours. So let's talk about moving forward. What's going to happen? Okay, what's next? So a lot of people are wondering. So what I am pretty confident in is we're going to have Arctic air that drops down to the lower 48. And you also see it in the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. This will move in before the 6-day range. So it'll start moving in as early as Friday and a Saturday and a Sunday. Well below average temperatures are predicted. Here comes that kind of that La Nina effect where you normally get below average temperatures up here. All the cold air gets locked up here. And you see it here. Above average temperatures predicted for the southeast. There's going to be a couple really warm days in the southeast next week. I really think there will. I'm talking about temperatures in the 70s. But there's going to be some kind of boundary that first off sits right into here. Okay, let me see if I can pull up my little gadget right here. I think I'm going to use my cursor a little bit more. But there's going to be a boundary that first off kind of sits right into here. Okay, this will probably set up the last few days of January. Eventually, this boundary might drift right into here. Okay, so we got to watch and see what it does for sure. But for now, we are highly confident because it's going to happen in the next few days that Arctic air, real true Arctic air well below zero is going to drop down probably as far south as the northern plains and then eventually leak into the central plains. So we know this is coming. The 8 to 14 day range, which takes us through the 2nd of February through the 8th of February, because we're starting to get into February now. 8 to 14 day range, below average temperature still predicted as far south as Houston, down near Brownsville, Texas. But look how it's starting to beat down this ridge. You got below average temperatures now and into Mississippi predicted, a slight chance of it. Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, the Northeast. So it's not going to be so much as an Arctic boundary potentially down here, but we got to see. But this cold air is starting to bleed east. So what's causing this? A lot of people are wondering. So here comes our upper trough or trough of low pressure. This is swinging through right now. If you're confused about what time frame we're at, so we're starting off right here. And I know this confuses a lot of people. A lot of people just want me to jump on here and show you the Fantasyland winter storms, show pink, blue, purple in your location. I'm going to show you a European run here in a second that's going to make a lot of people happy or upset because there might be a lot of ice involved in a storm that I'm watching next week. But we'll talk about that here in a second. But here you go. This swings through, and then you see this tall ridge. We call this a negative EPO, which is basically ridging up in Alaska. So normally that means you're going to get some kind of cold air dump into the lower 48. But where does that cold air dump occur? Does it occur in the west or the central and the eastern U.S.? In this case, it drops in the western U.S. So a big Arctic front is going to begin to drop down as early as this weekend. Okay, this is intense ridging up to Alaska. So you see basically all this Arctic air. It begins to drop down into here. And then you're going to get some kind of Arctic boundary that sets up like this and begins to try to ooze very slowly, day by day, further east or southeast. Eventually, at first, it's just going to drop due south. So this is our Arctic air mass about to drop down. Okay, so this is your troughing. This is your cold fronts and a boundary that's going to set up ultimately. So let's get this back to this, switch it to 84, and get this rolling again. So we'll keep this rolling. Consistent ridging up here in Alaska, which allows for a cross-polar flow to set up here. So what's going to happen here is you got consistent ridging into early next week for the eastern U.S. All this snow that you got, if you got any snow, it's probably going to melt again. There's been just no consistency with any kind of snowpack with any of these systems. So ridging in the east, you see these orange warmer colors. This is ridging of high pressure. So this is troughing. Think of this as colder than average temperatures. So this is going to go trough of low pressure. At the same time, you're going to have pieces of energy flying across this boundary right into here. So we'll keep this going and getting into the middle of next week. Watch as this blue area, this boundary, trough, cold front, whatever you want to call it, begins to kind of move eastward. This is going to bring, even in these white areas you see, it's below average temperatures. It's troughing. It's a dip in the jet stream, which is allowing for cold air to funnel down. But watch as this ridge, as we're starting to get late next week, starts to get beat down, and then you have a window. You already have a window next week for the central areas and maybe even areas of the Mid-South. But late next week, into the weekend, into maybe deeper into February, you have a small window for the eastern U.S. for something. But I don't know what that something is, and I don't know if that something will ever end up being something. But you notice you got a ridge the build's in the west, okay, and you got troughing in the east, but it's not the best signal, but it is a signal as we get about, I would say, 7 to 10 days out, and it begins to develop. So what does all this mean as this boundary shifts? So this is another awesome way to look at it. So what we're seeing here is this little window, over the next couple of days. Well, it'll be below average for the southeast, but I mean, it's really just typical January kind of stuff. And here it goes. You see these greens right here? That's about 10 to 15 degrees below average. But you see these areas right in here? That's about 20 degrees below average, if not more. So this continues to dip down. And what happens here is the ridge really begins to flex, because this cold air is basically digging so deeply to the south, it causes this ridge of high pressure to flex. Remember we were kind of talking about the waterbed effect, where if you jumped in the middle of a waterbed, it would cause the other edges of the waterbed to kind of rise up. So you jump down, it causes these sides to rise up. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like the jet stream. You kind of push down on the jet stream, it causes both sides of where you push down to rise up. That's kind of what's happening here. So you get this dip in the jet stream, you get this cross-polar flow that sets up a ton of Arctic air. And I mean, you see these anomalies right here. And by the way, these are not anomalies in Fahrenheit compared to average. You see this purple area? I mean, that is 30, 35 degrees plus below average of this time of the year. Okay, so that's well below zero for this part of the country. Montana, you're going to be in the frozen tundra late this weekend into early next week. And you see these above average temperatures setting up right here. It's going to be a scorcher for the eastern U.S. and the southeast next week. It really is. And the deep south too. But look at this boundary, okay? Let me stop it right here. Now let's stop it about right here. Okay, this is next Tuesday afternoon, the last day of January. Ton of Arctic air beginning to ooze into Dallas. It's already taken over Oklahoma. For example, one half of the state, the northwest part of Arkansas, is well below average. The southeast part of the state is above average temperature-wise. Compared to average, we'll talk about what that looks like temperature-wise here in a second. So hang with me here. But this is a huge boundary. And along this boundary is where the jet dips. So along that jet is where you got your southern jet. So you're going to have a lot of energy flying around this boundary. And when you have overrunning of this moisture into the cold air, you're going to have frozen precipitation somewhere. So there's going to be some kind of potential for a storm system right around here in the beginning of this developing Arctic air mass dropping, or this pattern, if you will. But we'll keep this going here. We're getting into Wednesday, and watch as these warmer than average temperatures begin to kind of get beat down a little bit. We get into Thursday, you're still clinging to it. But look, this is starting to ooze into the Mid-South, the Ohio Valley, as we're getting into around this time next week. And then here we go. This is 216 hours out. This is all the way out until next Friday morning. The only area in the country that's above average is maybe some small sections of Georgia and South Carolina and most of Florida. But look at this, 15 to 20 to as much as 25 degrees below average for the 3rd of February is very cold still. You're starting to lose the true grip of the coldest time of the year. But I mean, early February can still be extremely cold. We all know that. But as we're getting into about late next work week into next weekend, the latest European ensemble, which could change, starts to finally, at least temporarily, beat down the south ridge, even southeast ridge, even for the southeast. So you start to get below average temperatures from this Arctic push of air that really takes over the eastern U.S. for a period of time. So, if you get any kind of winter weather, if you get any kind of moisture, you'll likely get winter weather chances for certain areas depending on where you live. But I'll stop it right here. This is for next weekend, about the middle of next weekend. Just about the entire country is below average temperature wise. So saying a lot, guys. So regardless, I am highly confident on this time period right here that there's going to be a big boundary. I mean, we're going to see some wild temperature gradients across the middle of the country next week. It's going to be wild to watch. Same thing with the European ensemble. We're watching this and we'll breeze through this a lot quicker. Here it comes. Here comes that gradient setting up later this weekend, and it'll try to beat down this ridge. And, the entire GFS ensemble has not ran through yet, so I'll probably hit a brick wall here in a second. But we're getting into Tuesday morning, well above average temperatures for the southeast and the eastern U.S., and then well above average temperatures. I mean, look at this. Some areas might try to push 80 degrees somewhere in the southeast next week. I wouldn't be surprised. But Are we going to beat this down? The GFS ensemble on the last frame at 210 hours out. Same thing with the EPS. The European ensemble slowly starts kind of taking a hold and finally beating down this ridge. But it's a long and drawn out process. And normally with these long and drawn out processes, sometimes it just never ends up happening. But the confidence increases more and more the further west you live. It's that simple. You know, if you live out in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Illinois, even the Ohio Valley, even western sections of Tennessee, Mississippi, the confidence is growing more and more for you guys that you guys are going to get some well below average temperatures. Okay? What this means as far as actually looking at temperatures, well, this is the latest European run. So, you know, this is going to change a lot. But as early as Saturday morning, this is the 28th, so a few days from now, you're waking up to below zero temperatures in the Dakotas and areas of northern Minnesota. Okay, you know, you take it up all the way to high temperatures for this coming Saturday, the next few days, the 28th. High temperatures not even making it above 0 degrees. Okay, single digits as far south as Nebraska. Look at Omaha. You're struggling to get above the single digits for highs. Okay, but look down here in Texas. I mean, you're in the 60s, Louisiana into Texas. Look at this boundary. That's the boundary right there setting up. We keep dropping this further. We look at temperatures as far as Sunday morning, this coming Sunday morning, you got 10, 15 degrees below zero setting up here. So the frozen tundra is beginning to drop down. Then you look at highs for Sunday morning. The entire state of Nebraska might struggle to get out the single digits, okay? Look at Texas, warming even more ahead of this boundary. You're getting closer to the 70s for south central and southern sections of Texas into the 80s. And then this really begins to drop down. And then let's just go on and take it, for example, let's look at Tuesday morning. This Arctic boundary swings through Texas potentially, or in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You're waking up the single digits as far south as maybe Missouri. And then look down here. This is what I'm talking about, a boundary. And for example, when you're waking up Tuesday morning, you're in the 70s for low temperatures in Houston. But in Amarillo, you're in the teens. Okay? And then the boundaries tries to continue to ooze southward. For example, high temperatures Wednesday. In Arkansas, you're trying to get out the 30s, but you go down here to Jackson, Mississippi, or, Gulfport, Mississippi, New Orleans, you're trying to flirt with 80 degrees. So this is a big boundary. So this isn't anything compared to what we saw in late December, guys. Don't get it twisted with that or anything like that. Could it trend to something like that? Yeah. But the boundary is coming, but how far southeast does it make it? For you folks wondering about the east, that's a big question. You see some really bitterly cold temperatures getting into the Ohio Valley as we get into late next work week. But how much will this modify? For example, next Friday morning, look how cold the temperatures is in the Ohio Valley, single digits into Tennessee. So we got to see what's going to happen here. So you mix this is 200 millibar wind stream. So basically this is telling us where the jet stream is. So you mix this boundary, right? That's going to set up right into here. You see it drop down as this trough digs out west. Okay, you mix that with an active jet. You see these vibrant colors here. This is basically where all of our moisture is riding. So in this area, you have a storm track that's shooting right into here. So storm track is probably going something like that, or it might shoot up further like that, or it might come up like this. But regardless, on whatever side of this track you got, you're going to have cold air on this side of the track. So something is going to try to set up on the cold side of the low pressure, obviously, right? So this is wild to watch. We got to certainly watch it because you have an active southern jet mixed in with an overrunning potential with the Arctic boundary nearby, and we got to watch. So everybody's wondering, what about the crazy runs, Mitch? So let's take a look at the latest European model and see what it shows. First off, we already talked about this little clipper or a little northern stream energy will throw some snow into the Ohio Valley. And then maybe a little more of a stout system right here might fly through the Midwest and give Chicago maybe some accumulating snow over the weekend. Okay. And then this is when the boundary starts to drop, right? Look at all this moisture. It's going to be another potential washout of a Sunday for areas of the South. And then this system moves through. The boundary begins to sag ever so slightly south, Here comes another low pressure that drops in. And I know this is pretty small on your screen, but this is for next Monday or Tuesday. Look at all this pink showing. If you're wondering what the pink is, that is the dreaded freezing rain showing up for Oklahoma, southern Missouri. I'm not saying this is exactly what's going to happen, guys. I'm saying that the pattern favors it. You got an overrunning potential up here. You got a boundary setting up here, and a ton of rain again for Tennessee, the South, yada, yada, yada. The same usual for us. So this moves through, turns into maybe a big winter storm for the Ohio Valley sometime next week. We don't know for sure. This is just what one run of the European shows. The GFS is everywhere, but at 12Z it showed a similar run. Another mixed bag storm for the Northeast, midway next week. But then, look, the boundary continues to sag south, and with an active jet, you continue to have overrunning potential. But this time, you got snow moving a little bit further southeast, okay? With that Arctic high dropping down, you got more just dry air up here with no chance of precipitation up here because the storm track is getting kind of shunted south down here. So another rainstorm, but look as this Arctic boundary continues, or this cold front continues to sag southeast. So you got snow showing up for areas of South Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee. But, remember, guys, this is over a week out. So it always is over a week out. And then the boundary sets up all the way into the southeast. And look at the snow all the way into Charleston, South Carolina. Okay, so it just tells you, if that Arctic boundary can somehow beat down that southeast ridge, which I have low confidence that it will completely, then all bets are off for everybody. So active pattern coming up, guys. That's all I got. I'll continue to get you updated on this. But I can almost bet you we're going to have some wild runs, model runs coming up as it tries to figure out who's going to see what along this Arctic boundary. That's all I got, guys. God bless all y'all. Have a great night, and I'll talk to y'all soon.